Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Celine and you're watching the second episode of my series on 1001 Nights, also known as Arabian Nights. So as you know, in the last episode we talked about King Shahryar, who marries a new woman every day and kills her the next morning. Quite heartless, right? Until his wife Shahrazad begins telling him the story each night and never finishes it. By keeping him and us curious, she keeps herself alive. And this continues for 1,000 nights, and by the end, the king falls in love with her. Today, we're going to talk about the next stories Shahrazad tells the king. Yes, you heard it right, only 3 stories today, not 5, because today's stories, especially the last one, are just mind-blowing and too much to take in. But before we continue, just a short note. Arabian Nights is a medieval text, so some ideas in those stories reflect the culture of that time. I'm not supporting or promoting any harmful practices. I'm simply retelling the original tales for educational and literary purposes. So, in the last episode, we talked about the Sultan who bought the fisherman's colorful talking fish and became so curious that he traveled to the mysterious lake. There, he found an abandoned castle, and inside it, a young king whose lower body had turned into black marble. This young king then tells his story. He explains that he once ruled a beautiful kingdom called the Black Isles. He married his cousin, I know, right? Whom he loved deeply, and for 5 years everything seemed perfect. But then he discovered that his queen was secretly meeting another man at night. She made the king drink a potion that put him into deep sleep so she could sneak out to see her lover. One night, the king pretended to drink the potion and followed her. He saw her walking into the garden and meeting a man she clearly loved. The king was heartbroken and furious, of course, so he attacked the man thinking he killed him, but the queen used magic to keep her lover barely alive. When she discovered what happened, the queen didn't confront her husband right away. Instead, she spent a whole year pretending to mourn her dead relatives. After that, she built a palace of tears, a luxurious palace where she kept her wounded lover alive with magic potions and visited him every day. The king eventually confronted her, and in her rage, she used her dark magic to turn him into half marble, half human. Then she destroyed the entire city and turned its people into fish of different colors, each color representing their religion. The whole kingdom became the lake where the fishermen caught the talking fish. Every day, she came back to the half marble king, aka her husband, to beat him 100 times as punishment. After hearing all of this, the Sultan promised to help. The next morning, he went to the Palace of Tears, killed the queen's lover for real this time, and pretended to be him by lying in the bed. When the queen arrived, he tricked her into restoring the city and freeing her husband from the spell. When she returned, thinking her lover was healed, the Sultan revealed himself and killed her with one strike. With the enchantress gone, the young king got his kingdom back, and the city and its people returned to their normal forms. The Sultan returned home with the young king as his adopted son, and the fisherman who started it all was generously rewarded for the rest of his life. So, the next story we're covering today is the story of the porter with the 3 ladies of Baghdad. It begins with a cheerful porter living in Baghdad during the time of Caliph Harun al-Rashid. One morning, a mysterious young woman in a veil asks him to carry a basket and follow her through the city. As they walk, she buys all kinds of food, spices, flowers, sweets, and even wine, until the poor porter is struggling under the weight of everything. Finally, they arrive at a beautiful house with an ivory door. 2 more stunning young women come out to greet her, and the porter is completely amazed by how beautiful and elegant they all are. Inside, the house is luxurious with fountains, marble floors, and golden decorations. At first, first, the plan is for the porter to drop off the basket and leave, but he's so funny and charming that the sisters decide to invite him to stay on one condition. He must not ask any questions about things that don't concern him. And there's even a golden sign on the wall that says, "Whoever talks about what does not concern him hears but does not please him." The sisters prepare a big feast, pour wine, sing, and joke with the porter. The atmosphere becomes warm and lively, and he eventually asks to stay for the night because he's overwhelmed by everything that's happened. They agree again, reminding him not to be curious. But in the middle of the night, a sudden knock at the door interrupts the party. When one of the sisters opens it, she finds 3 wandering dervishes, all blind in the right eye and shaved completely. They ask for shelter for one night, and although their appearance is strange, the sisters decide to let them in, after warning them as well not to ask any questions. The 3 dervishes, also called the Calenders, enter the house, bow to the sisters, and they are warmly welcomed. They notice how elegant the house is and how kind the hostesses are. But before sitting down, they glance at the porter and see he's dressed like a calendar, even though he isn't shaved like them. One of them jokes that he must be a rebellious brother. Now, the porter is half asleep and a bit drunk, so he gets offended. He snaps back, telling them to mind their own business, and reminding them of the rule written on the wall. Whoever speaks of what does not concern him hears what does not please him. A fight almost starts, but the sisters step in and calm everyone down. The women serve food and wine, and Safiya in particular keeps filling the Calender's cups. After eating, the Calenders offer to play music. Safiya brings out instruments, a native flute, a Persian flute, and a tambourine, and each Calender picks one. They begin playing a cheerful tune, and the sisters join in the singing, laughing at their silly lyrics. Just when everyone is having fun, someone knocks at the door. Here, Shahrazad pauses the story and explains what's happening outside. That night, Caliph Harun al-Rashid is walking through the city in disguise with his vizier Jafar. The Caliph enjoys visiting the city at night to see what people are doing. When he hears music and laughter coming from the sister's house, he orders Jafar to knock. Jafar tries to convince him to leave the ladies alone, but the Caliph insists. Safiya opens the door holding a candle, and Jafar gives a long polite speech, pretending they are merchants who had too much wine and escaped from the city guards. He says they're simply looking for shelter until morning. Safiya studies their faces and realizes they look like important men, but she says she must ask her sisters first. After a short discussion, the women decide to treat them the same way they treated the Calenders. They invite them in with the same rule. They may look, but they may not ask. Everyone sits together. The Caliph is amazed by the beauty of the sisters, but also confused by the 3 one-eyed Calenders. He wants to ask questions, but the rule stops him. The Calenders then dance, surprising the whole group. After that, Zubaydah and her sisters start cleaning up the room. Safiya asks the porter to stand by and help. Soon, Amina brings in 2 black dogs on chains. Dogs that look terribly beaten. Then something strange happens. Zubaydah rolls up her sleeves, takes a whip, and orders the porter to bring her the first dog. The dog looks at her and howls pitifully, but she beats it until she's exhausted. Then she hugs it, cries with it, wipes its tears, kisses it, and sends it back. She does the exact same thing to the second dog, and everyone is shocked. And at this point, so am I. Why beat the dogs so harshly, then cry over them? Before anyone can ask, Amina suddenly faints. When she opens her robe to get air, the guests see her chest covered in scars. The calendars whispered that they would rather have slept outside than witness such strange things. The Caliph tries to find answers, but no one in the room, not the calendars, not the porter, knows what's going on. The Caliph decides they should force the sisters to explain. Jafar warns him that they accepted the sisters' rules and breaking them could be dangerous. The Caliph refuses to wait. The men argue about who will ask the forbidden question, and finally they push the job onto the poor porter. Just as he's about to speak, Zubaydah walks in and asks what they are discussing. The porter explains that everyone wants to know why the dogs were beaten and why Amina's chest is full of scars. Then Zubaydah is furious. She reminds them of the promise they made not to ask anything that doesn't concern them. Then she stomps her foot on the floor and claps 3 times. And suddenly, 7 tall black slaves with swords rush into the hall. They throw all 7 men onto the ground and prepare to cut off their heads. The Caliph regrets everything. The porter starts crying loudly and blaming the calendars for all the trouble. Zubaydah almost laughs at his panic but keeps her stern expression. She demands that the men reveal who they are or die. The calendars explain they're all princes who became dervishes after tragic adventures. Hearing this, Zubaydah's anger softens. She orders the slaves to let them go, but says she will not spare their lives until she hears their stories. Anyone who refuses will be killed. The porter goes first, since he has the simplest story. He just carried Safia's basket and had no idea what he was getting himself into. Zubaydah lets him stay and listen. Then one of the calendars prepares to tell his story, the story of how he lost his eye. And that's where this part ends. So, the first calendar begins his story by explaining why he lost his right eye and how he ended up wandering the world in the clothes of a dervish. He says, to understand my story, you need to know what I am, the son of a king. His father ruled one kingdom, and his uncle, his father's brother, ruled a neighboring one. The calendar and his cousin, the prince, were same age and they grew up very close. After finishing his education, he visited his uncle's court every year, and each time he stayed a month or 2. Because of this, he and the prince became almost like brothers. One year, the prince welcomed him with even more affection than usual. He said he had been preparing a special surprise ever since their last meeting. Asked his cousin to swear an oath of secrecy and loyalty. The calendar agreed without hesitation. The prince then went out and returned with a beautiful, richly dressed woman. He didn't explain who she was, and out of respect, the calendar didn't ask. After dining together and drinking wine, the prince told him, "Take this lady by that path, you'll see a newly built tomb with the door open. Enter and wait for me there." The calendar obeyed. He guided the woman by moonlight to the tomb, and moments later the prince arrived carrying water, a shovel, and a bag of mortar, and then revealed the hidden trapdoor. Beneath it was a staircase. The prince told the woman to go down first, and she descended, and then the prince said to his cousin, "Thank you for helping me. Go back now. Goodbye." The calendar, confused and slightly drunk, said his farewells and returned to the palace. The next morning, he assumed it had all been a dream, until he learned that the prince had not come home and no one knew where he was. He was shaken and spent 4 days searching the city's cemeteries to find the tomb, but he could not find it. His uncle was away hunting, and before he returned, the calendar felt too troubled to stay. He left a polite message with the ministers and returned to his father's kingdom, still unable to break the oath he had sworn. But as soon as he arrived home, soldiers surrounded him. An officer told him, Your father is dead. The army has chosen the Grand Vizier as king, and now I arrest you by his order." The calendar was taken to the usurper, the same vizier whose eye he had accidentally injured years earlier with a stray arrow from his crossbow. Although the prince had apologized back then, the vizier had never forgiven him. Now that he held power, the vizier took revenge in the cruelest way. He clawed out the calendar's right eye with his bare hands. Then he ordered the young prince to be locked in a cage and taken far away to be executed. On the journey, the executioner took pity on him and released him on one condition: he must leave the kingdom forever. Though the calendar was grateful to be alive, even half blind, he escaped through a remote path. He traveled by night, hid by day, and finally reached the lands of his uncle. There, he told the king everything, except for the forbidden secret of the tomb. But when he saw his uncle's grief, he could no longer keep silent. He revealed the whole story. Surprisingly, instead of losing hope, the king said he knew exactly where the tomb had been built. They disguised themselves and secretly went out to find it, and they did. Together, they lifted the heavy trapdoor and went down the stairs. Inside the underground chambers, they found rooms filled with provisions, lamps, and a large bed behind tightly drawn curtains. When they opened the curtains, they discovered a horrifying sight. The prince and the mysterious lady lying dead, burned black as though struck by a divine fire. And I'm totally distraught, and you're gonna know why in a few seconds. The strangest thing was the king's reaction. He showed no sadness and declared his son deserved this punishment, because the dead woman was his daughter and the prince's sister. From childhood, they had loved each other in a way they shouldn't have, despite all his warnings, punishments, and attempts to separate them. The prince had built the tomb as a secret hiding place to meet her, and when the king went hunting, the prince abducted his sister and locked himself underground with her. The king believed that divine justice has struck them down together. After sealing the tomb again to hide the shame, the king and the calendar returned to the palace, but soon the city was attacked by the same vizier who had overthrown the calendar's father. The uncle fought bravely, but he was killed, and the calendar fled and hid with a loyal officer. But he knew that he would be recognized, so he shaved his beard and eyebrows and disguised himself as a wandering calendar. He left the kingdom, traveled through dangerous regions, and eventually made his way toward Baghdad, hoping to seek help from Caliph Harun al-Rashid. On the road, he met two other calendars who were also travelers and strangers. They joined together for safety and friendship. When they reached the city at night, they searched for shelter and finally knocked on the door of the sister's house. And that is how the first calendar lost his eye, became a wanderer, and ended up their company. So after him, the next dervish steps forward to tell his story, but I'm gonna leave you here to digest the whole drama of this episode. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and wait for the rest of it the next Monday. Thanks for watching, and see you later.